Hello, my name's Tash. I am going to be sharing with you a little bit about my journey with anxiety and how I realized that I was experiencing it and how I have changed my mind about what it is and how it affects me and how I feel about it. So I remember being in my first year of uni, I think it would have been, and going to the toilet, and you know, on the back of the door they have those things about random things like depression, gambling, like call this number hotline, or little things that they have telling you what you might be experiencing. And so I remember seeing this one day about anxiety, and all of the symptoms on this list, I was like tick, 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 tick. So then I thought, okay, I have all of these symptoms. This sign is telling me that I have anxiety. So I went to Google and I Googled about anxiety, and what came up was an article that a woman had written. I don't remember who it was or what website this article was on, but essentially it was her going into detail about how she had anxiety and she experienced very, very intense panic attacks to the point where she would freeze on the spot, her vision would be fixed, she wouldn't be able to get a breath of air in, and she could feel her heart beating through her chest. And so I thought that I didn't have anxiety because that didn't happen to me. So then from that point on, even though I had identified with every single one of the symptoms, I kind of just thought, oh no, I don't have it, because what that lady described is not how I feel. So fast forward, I keep moving through my anxious life, and I'm at the doctor's one day, and the doctor says to me, "Are you okay? You seem really stressed out. I know it's Christmas, you know it's a stressful time of year." And I replied, "Huh? I love Christmas. This is my favorite time of year. This is me on a good day. Like, if you think I'm stressed today, like, you should see me in like April." And my doctor was so genuinely concerned about me, and she printed out this sheet of paper and kind of slid it across the table at me and said, "Maybe just fill this one out for me," which is now what I know to be a DASS test, which stands for depression, anxiety, and stress. And so it gives you lots of little statements and you circle how true they are for you. I think you rate it maybe like 0 to 3. And at the end of this test, it then gives you a result of how high ranking you are in the stress column, the anxiety column, and the depression column. And so at the end of this test, it said severe anxiety. And so from here, my doctor, who was amazing, told me that I have anxiety and that she knows I didn't come into the doctor's office that day to deal with this, but if I would like to, she knows a beautiful psychologist that she could recommend me to, and it would probably help me. And so I took this on board, and I went home to my partner that day and I said, "You'll never guess what happened. I went to the doctor's and she told me I have anxiety, and so she's referred me to a psychologist. I don't know if I'm going to go yet or not," because in my mind there was nothing wrong with me, because I had been floating through my life feeling this way forever. So why change it now? You know, like, don't go into the unknown. I'll just keep floating along how I'm going okay. And so I did end up going to the psychologist, and it was such a great help. My psychologist was so beautiful and so understanding, and she really helped me understand what was happening to my body physiologically and physically when I was experiencing anxiety. And so this understanding alone helped me so much, as well as being able to talk about my anxiety and my fears and things that I couldn't verbalize to anyone because it made no logical sense, and having that validated and listened to was so healing for me, because I realized that even though it doesn't make logical sense, it was real within my brain and my body was having a reaction to it. So whether or not it makes sense, it's there and it's happening. And so that was really kind of the turning point of where I started to then learn about anxiety and learn tools of how to cope with it. Then I moved to Cairns and stopped seeing my psychologist, and everything was good for a little while. I still experienced anxiety, but definitely not to the degree that I had experienced it in the past. Fast forward a year, I broke up with my boyfriend and started experiencing the worst anxiety that I had experienced in my whole life. I was doing all of the things that I could possibly do to feel better. I wasn't on any social media, I wasn't watching any Netflix, wasn't listening to any music, because I was so scared that anything would trigger me and cause me to be more anxious than what I was. And so I was waking up in the morning, I was exercising, I was trying to eat because my appetite was gone, but trying to eat healthy food, really forcing myself to eat food and be hydrated and getting a full night's rest, doing all of these things. And yet I still was experiencing this really intense anxiety. I'd been to the doctors and they wanted to put me on medication, which I did not want to do. And so I decided to go back to yoga. And yoga was something that I hadn't spent a lot of time doing throughout my life, but I had done an 8-week beginner course where we went into meditation at the end of every class, which if you're a yogi, you'll know as Shavasana. And that really helped me start to relax my body and move out of my stress response and into this state of relaxation. I also did go back to another psychologist who I do not feel that I received any benefit from. We did, I think, 10 sessions together, and I don't know if it was my resonance with her, I don't know if it was how she conducted the sessions or any little mannerisms, I don't know what it was, but that really turned me off psychologists altogether. And so after that I didn't go back, but what I did find was that yoga had really helped me. And so I kept doing yoga, and then I went to Emma Seolin's workshop, which was yoga for anxiety and stress, which was so beneficial because she explained about the nervous system and what's happening in your body and how you can use yoga to bring yourself back down out of an anxious state, which was so helpful for me. And over the years, I have started to build up now lots of tools that I can use when I feel myself becoming anxious to then bring me back down. My whole perspective on anxiety changed when one day Emma posted on her story about how she feels that anxiety is something that she experiences when she is not looking after herself, when she is not moving her body, when she is not eating well, meditating, doing all of the practices that are beneficial for her mind and her body. And this really flipped the script for me, because the whole time that I had been going through this journey, everyone says you have anxiety, the psychologist, the doctor, every single person, you have anxiety. Anxiety is not something you have. Anxiety is something you're experiencing because you're moving through things in your life and your body, your mind doesn't know how to cope. And so you experience anxiety to cope with that at the time. And if you don't learn other tools to then move through those life things, you're going to continue to be anxious because your body doesn't know how else to process it. So learning about the physiological responses and how I can take control over that and start moving myself back down into a state of rest and relaxation and experience this anxiety rather than having it was life-changing. And I definitely go through waves where I will feel anxious and then I won't, and I'll feel anxious and then I won't. Over the past few years, I would say I have been up and down with my experience of anxiety, some small and then some completely full-blown. And the times when it's big and I don't know what's caused it are probably the scariest times for me, because I can't pinpoint why I'm feeling the way that I'm feeling. So if you ever feel like this and you don't know why you're feeling that, please don't invalidate yourself because your life is good and you should be happy, because you shouldn't be anything. You're experiencing what you're experiencing, and you need to allow yourself to feel what you're feeling, validate yourself, and allow yourself to move through it, and refer yourself to people that can help you and give you the tools that you need to come back down to your happy self, because you shouldn't just be expected to be that way because your life is quote unquote okay. So that is probably one of the biggest things that I really want to make known, and that just because I experience anxiety one way doesn't mean, because you don't resonate with the way that I've experienced it, doesn't mean you don't have feelings of anxiety. It means that you might be experiencing it in a different way to me. So I wanted to just go over a few symptoms of feeling anxious, I suppose, and I've written a few down so I can list them off, because I didn't just want to draw on my experience. I wanted to get a scope of what Google says you may experience. So restlessness or feeling on edge, difficulty concentrating, difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep, being irritable, feeling difficulty controlling feelings of worry, having a sense of panic or overwhelm or doom, increased heart rate, tight chest, rapid breathing or shallow breathing. I think for me, anxiety can manifest differently depending on the experience that I'm going through. But sometimes I feel like it sounds so bizarre, but it's like my cells are shaking, right? Like the inside of me has pins and needles. I feel really restless, but not in like a I need to move around way, in like a I feel so uncomfortable within myself right now and my nervous system feels like it's about to fail. And then having an urge to avoid things. So if there's something that's making me really anxious, rather than doing it, I'll just start avoiding it. Another thing that tends to happen is that I get really snappy at people, and it makes no logical sense, but I am so short-tempered, and someone could do something totally normal. They could put the salt down on the table, and if that is not where my brain planned for the salt to go, snap. It just, if I can't control it and something doesn't go my way, really delicate. I would say it's been a long time since I've experienced anxiety like that, but growing up, that was a norm for me. That was really common. And I also feel this tightness in my chest sometimes where I can't breathe, and it's so hard just to take a breath in. Like physically, I can't take a full breath down into my belly and feel my lungs expand, which feels so restrictive. And that within itself, I think, can be really scary. And then the last thing that I have on my mind at the moment, which I actually saw on Instagram or TikTok, and it said that when you're continuously skipping the songs on your phone, it is a sign that you're anxious. And I have noticed over the years that I pick up on myself skipping, and not because I want to listen to a certain song on the playlist or because the vibe isn't right. If the vibe's not right, just change the playlist, right? But it's when any song, any playlist, you're like skip. I have noticed that yes, this has a direct correlation with when I am feeling especially anxious. I start skipping songs with absolutely no rhyme or reason behind it, and no song feels like the right song. So that's like a really random thing that I've noticed, but you might also feel like there's little tendencies that you have that you associate yourself with that aren't actually who you are or a trait that is yours, but it might be a trait of anxiety. And another one that I actually just thought of that I used to do all the time is I would catch myself counting in my head 1, 2, 3, 4, and I would be up at like 27, 28, 29, and I'd be like, why am I counting? And then I read another post one day that said that is another common sign of anxious tendencies. And so once you start finding out about these little things, everything kind of starts to click into place, like, that thing that I do is actually a symptom of when I'm experiencing these feelings of anxiety and not just the way that I am. So I hope that I have shed a little bit of light on my experience and how anxiety can manifest, and knowing that anxiety is something that we experience as with any other feeling or emotion. It's something that we experience, not something that we have. We don't have happiness, we don't have joy. We experience happiness, we experience joy. And the same goes for every emotion, whether it's positive or negative. We experience anxiety, we experience depression. And I don't want anyone to identify as having a negative emotion, because when you identify with it, it becomes your identity, and you are not the thing that you're experiencing. You're a human being, you're you, and you're moving through emotions and feelings all the time, good, bad, all of the things, because that's why we're here, to experience all of the things. So I hope that this has helped. If you maybe came to this video wondering about anxiety and potentially feeling alone, or even knowing that you have it and now having a different perspective to flip the script for yourself. But if you do have any questions about anything at all, please let me know. And I'm just a yoga teacher. I'm not a professional, I'm not a psychologist, but I can help you find people to talk to, and I can refer you to people that are much more qualified than me to help you move through any big emotions, because we can't be expected to move through all of the things by ourselves. We have a certain ability to move through so much, and sometimes our capacity to deal with things is at a cap. We can't move through these things by ourselves, and we need to ask other people to help us. We aren't born with the tools. We need to learn the tools. We need to be given the tools. So if you feel like you're experiencing big emotions, don't be afraid to reach out to people that can help you, whether it's me, whether it's a psychologist, whether it's someone else that's trained in this area. Please reach out, because you don't know the things that you don't know. Anyways, I feel like I have waffled on enough about all of this, but if there's anything that is unclear or anything that you want me to expand on, please let me know and I will. I love you. Goodbye.